So I had a very interesting chat the other day with a very interesting person, one of my biggest heroes, Caroline Lucas. I'm sure she needs no introduction, but for those who aren't familiar, she's the Member of Parliament for Brighton. She's the only Green Party Member of Parliament and former Green Party leader. She's been very involved in similar campaigns, especially against fracking in the past. So I thought she'd be a really interesting person to speak to get her thoughts about this campaign and this fight, and especially with her years of experience at the top in Parliament. So yeah, here it is. Check it out. I'm sure you'll find it very inspiring. Let us know what you think in the comments.
Amazing. Okay, so thank you, Caroline, so much for agreeing to talk with me and for taking time out of what I imagine is an extremely busy schedule right now. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate your support for what we're doing.
Thank you.
Obviously we've just been chatting before the call for anyone who's watching afterwards, and we've been talking about the campaign that my friend Sam and I are trying to raise money for with our bike ride, to the campaign against the permission that was given for UCOG, the oil company, to drill for oil at in Surrey. So why, Caroline, you've very kindly supported this campaign and this legal challenge and other similar ones in the past. Obviously, you were involved in the Balcombe case, which is actually just around the corner from Horse Hill. Why do you support this campaign and similar ones, and why do you think others should kind of find out more and support the campaign?
Well, first of all, huge congratulations to you and Sam for your endeavour. I think it's a fantastic way of both raising awareness of the importance of this issue and, of course, raising much needed funds for the court case. And I'm really proud to support it because I think basically people power makes the difference. And we can see that, sadly, our government isn't taking seriously the climate crisis. You know, their idea of dealing with it is to say that we need to be at net zero emissions by 2050. You know, that's 30 years away. Greta Thunberg rightfully says that, you know, the climate crisis means that our house is on fire, and it's on fire now, and you don't ring up the fire brigade and ask them to come in 30 years' time. We need really strong action now. And I think that case has only been underlined by the recent report from the International Energy Agency, which is hardly a kind of radical campaigning organization. You know, this is a very, very serious organization that studies the information, and they've basically said there must be no new oil and gas exploration from now on. We already know that existing reserves, if we were to exploit them, the ones that we already know about and are in the process of extracting from, if we were to do all of that, it would push us well beyond 1.5 degrees. So the idea that we need yet more fossil fuels to add to that really is adding fuel to the fire. So I think this is a campaign that people can get behind. Not many people would even imagine that somewhere like, you know, Surrey Hills is being the site of a major significant new extraction of fossil fuels. This is something on people's doorsteps in the south of England, and they can get involved both by supporting your fundraising campaign. They can get involved by getting hold of the campaign organisers, offering to be involved, write to their MPs, write to their councillors, just make a noise and make sure people know this is happening on their doorstep and they can make a difference.
Amazing, thank you. Couldn't agree more. So from your perspective, you've now had, what, just over 10 years in Parliament, I believe. And I actually read your book recently, which is really like insightful as to the inner workings of Parliament and, well, the failures really. So what do you think? I mean, there's obviously, as you say in your book, there's a lot of issues with how it all is run and structured and everything. But what do you think is one of the biggest problems with government politics in general when it comes to tackling the climate crisis and moving away from fossil fuels?
I think there are a whole range of forces that are kind of acting against what we need to see happen. And that's everything from the power of vested corporate interests, the fact that, we know many Tory MPs have got links to fossil fuel companies one way or another. There's also a failure, I think, of our whole parliamentary system to be able to plan for the future. If something's not happening literally today or tomorrow, then they're just kind of not interested in it. And you would have thought that, just looking at what's happening around us right now, you've probably heard, I know you're in Spain now, but you've probably heard about the floods in Germany, absolutely unprecedented levels of flooding in Germany, in Belgium, huge loss of life already. We know that in North America, in Canada, we've seen unprecedentedly hot weather events, people dying from that now. We know that in the global south, for years now, people have been dying as a direct result of the climate emergency. And you do kind of wonder, what is it that nature has to throw at us before we wake up to the catastrophe we are literally immersed in now and will only get worse? And it feels as if there's this huge gulf between the seriousness of the threat that we face and the inability of our political systems to rise to that challenge. We've seen through COVID, this grim COVID pandemic, that when there is a shared sense of an emergency, then governments can act quickly and they can do things that previously we've been told they can't. So they can house the homeless, which they did temporarily, at least during the worst of the COVID pandemic. And they did write off 13 billion of NHS debt. They did find the money to enable people to stay at home and to put public health ahead of profits and growth, at least for a short time. So we've seen what they can do when they understand the seriousness of a crisis. And yet there's something about the relatively slow onset of the climate crisis. Of course, if you look at it in the context of millennia, this is happening in an instant. But as far as most MPs are concerned, it's not impinging even yet on their day-to-day lives. So they don't treat it with the urgency that they need. And yet every single warning light is flashing red on the dashboard. I've mentioned the IEA report, this big report from the International Energy Association, saying that we must not get any more fossil fuels out of the ground. We've seen report after report from the Committee on Climate Change, from all of these different academics who are telling the government we need to act more quickly. And yet somehow there is this inertia, it doesn't break through. And you say rightly, I've been there in Parliament for 10 years and I feel that I failed because, at every moment I try to raise it in Prime Minister's questions, or I raise it in debates, or I've put down a new bill, the Climate and Ecological Emergency Bill, which is a new bill which absolutely is trying to be as up to date as possible with the science and is linked to the 1.5 degrees and is trying to get us to act more quickly. But it feels unless we have people power on the outside, court cases brought by ordinary people on the outside, we're just not going to shake up the political system fast enough.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned a couple of examples of things that governments can do, that they have the potential to do to actually address major issues. How optimistic are you that our government will address these issues, that we will move away from fossil fuels quickly enough, and that we will address at least the worst of the climate crises? Because of course it's, in many ways, it's already upon us. We're already seeing a lot of very devastating consequences. Are you very optimistic? Do you think we will pull together and really address it?
I mean, anybody who looks at the evidence of this government would find it hard to feel optimistic about their capacity to act fast enough. I mean, this is a government that is, just produced a report this week saying that we can all go on flying as much as we like because somehow, in some way yet to be discovered, they're going to find, environmentally friendly fuels that will allow us to continue with business as usual. I mean, this is just cloud cuckoo land. It's fantasy. It's ridiculous. It's irresponsible. We know that they were trying to give the go-ahead to a new coal mine in Cumbria, and it was only public pressure that managed to change that. So on the one hand, you know, I think people would be understandably extremely pessimistic about the chances of this government acting in time. But on the other hand, the thing that gets me out of bed every morning, and presumably you as well, is the fact that people power can make a difference. We can change things, and things can change very fast. I suppose that's the thing that I take some hope from, that just as there are tipping points when it comes to the science of climate change, in other words, there get to be points when you get self-fulfilling feedback loops. And so when you've melted the ice in the Arctic, then the sea itself then begins to absorb more carbon and you get more climate change and you get these vicious circles, these tipping points. Just as you can have tipping points in science, I think you can have tipping points in politics. Things can change much faster than we ever imagined. And if we can keep up the pressure, and we have had successes, that Cumbrian coal mine was called in. We don't yet know what they're going to say about it, but my understanding is that they are likely to rule against it because they realize it is incompatible, not least with the UK supposedly showing climate leadership as the host of the COP26, the big climate summit in November in Glasgow. So I do think we can make a difference. I do think we can still get them off this collision course that we're on, but it's going to take all of us doing more than we've ever dreamed of before to achieve it.
Wow, that was really inspirational, and I think probably a really good point to bring this to a close.
Say good luck to you again, because I think what you're doing is fantastic.
Thank you.
What Sarah is doing in terms of the court case is amazing.
Yeah.
If anybody is thinking, what difference can I make as they watch this video, then the difference they could make, if they can, if you're in a position to contribute to your fundraising, that would be fantastic. If not, then just make a noise, write to somebody, speak to somebody that you don't normally talk to about climate. You know, we've all got to do whatever it is, and if we all add that up, then it might just be enough.
Thank you so much, Caroline. It's been a real honor meeting you. You're one of my biggest heroes.
Oh.
I had to say that. And yeah, thanks for taking this time out, because I know you're really busy.
Thank you. Well, all the very best with your trip.
Amazing. Thank you. Have a good day.
And you.
Bye-bye.